Welcome back to this special news broadcast as India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lands in Israel. We understand his plane has touched down. We're waiting for visuals of that. But first into studio, our international affairs correspondent Bianca Zanini is here with us, as well as Anat Bernstein-Reich, chairperson for Israel-India Chamber of Commerce. Thank you both for being here.
Hi, good evening.
We were talking before you arrived, Anat, about how historic this visit is. Talk us through why now? Why has it taken so long for an Indian head of government to land in Israel?
It took a while for our relations to go out of the closet, as we say. But for Modi, he came into power 3 years ago, and it took him a while to take the courage to come out and announce Israel and India are strategic partners in business, in defense, in intelligence, and so on. So for India as a whole, of course, it took many years, but for Modi, it took 3 years.
And we're looking now at live images on the screen of Narendra Modi's plane has touched down at Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Now, with this interview, and sorry, we've just lost those visuals.
Sure.
We'll bring them back to our viewers as soon as we can. We know that he's here for 3 days, not visiting the Palestinian Authority, any leaders there. Do you believe that this was on purpose? Is he trying to send a message, or is this just because he's putting his focus here on Israel, this particular visit?
It's okay not to combine. We are friends with India, whether there is a Palestinian issue or not, and that's his statement. He's here to visit Israel, to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu, to learn more about Israeli innovation, to see how we can foster the collaboration, and he's not getting into those Middle East politics.
Right. And we know that we saw President Donald Trump, US President Donald Trump, here in Israel just recently. A similar scene with the red carpet rolled out. However, Benjamin Netanyahu has said that this visit is particularly special. In fact, he's going to be accompanying Narendra Modi across the 3 days. Why such special symbolism for this landing?
Isn't it wonderful? In a sense that for 20 years I'm working in India, and suddenly Israel is starting to notice the importance of India.
And the other way around.
And the other way around. India is the next market for us. Okay, we cannot ignore it. We were looking all the time at China, but India is the growing power of Asia. They have access to the Arab market, which they're in good relations as well, and they will become the leader of the new world. And Mr. Netanyahu understands the importance of India for us in politics, but also in business and defense.
And Israel is constantly looking for partners, at least in the United Nations. Is India proving to be an effective partner for Israel in the halls of the United Nations?
So. There were a few things that India we were not happy with, but overall the Indian statement are pro-Israel, and this is the statement. Modi coming to Israel for those 48 hours with the leading CEOs of India, with leading public figures is a statement. And of course, Bibi is reciprocating to him with this attention.
But I remember, correct me if I'm mistaken, that Modi, after being voted into power in 2014, abstained from a very important UN vote. Was that at least a vote of confidence in Israel, or was that a shift from its normal?
You know, there are balance of interests, and probably it was difficult for him to vote in favor of us. But again, this is the statement. He's coming here, shows what are his true colors, and the colors are beautiful.
All right. I just want to take our viewers back to those live images as Narendra Modi has landed at Ben Gurion Airport. Our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, is there on the ground. Owen, we're seeing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's Prime Minister, making his way to the top of the red carpet. What can you tell us from the ground there?
Well, Tracy, the excitement is built up. The plane is here, as our viewers can see. And the Master of Ceremonies is giving instructions to the honor guard. The Prime Minister of Israel is stepping out to greet the Prime Minister of India. This is a huge moment for Prime Minister Netanyahu. He always likes to argue that Israel has more international relationships than ever before. There are always a lot of doubters, given the boycott and divestment movement in the West, for example. But this is a case where Prime Minister Netanyahu can really point to a real diplomatic advance for Israel, that after 25 years, an Indian prime minister, the prime minister of one of the world's largest countries, the world's largest democracy, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has reminded us, one of the world's 10 largest economies, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, is coming here to embrace Israel for a friendly visit. His plane is here. We'll see him step down in just a few moments. Tracy, this is a big moment for the state of Israel and also for India.
Now, Owen, you were reporting for us live once US President Donald Trump left Ben Gurion Airport heading away from his Middle East visit. What's the difference in pomp, I suppose, over there for this ceremony, which Israel said was going to be, I suppose, more of a spectacle than it was for Donald Trump when he was here?
Well, again, I was here for when Donald Trump left, and that was a much more modest ceremony at the request of the Trump administration. They wanted something quieter and more modest. The ceremony when Donald Trump landed was much more elaborate, and that seems to be what this ceremony is. It's not expected to be as elaborate as the one to greet Donald Trump, but it is quite elaborate. We have the Army Band here, as our viewers can see, in the honor guard, and the red carpet rolled out. We have a podium for Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu to speak and to address the crowd. We have dignitaries here. So this is a ceremony befitting how historic this visit is. Again, Tracy, a very, very important moment for Israel's prime minister and for the state of Israel as a whole.
Now, we also know that one of Modi's first stops after this landing ceremony is to Israel's Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem. What's the significance of that visit?
Well, this is an important part of visits of heads of state and heads of government to Israel. It's almost a required part of our diplomatic protocol in this country. And Prime Minister Modi will visit the Holocaust Memorial. Now, again, as opposed to some European leaders for whom it can be a very emotional visit because of their country's own past, India is a country that was far afield and actually never has any record of anti-Semitism, despite Jews living in the country for thousands of years. But it's always an emotional moment when a foreign leader visits Yad Vashem, visits Israel's Holocaust Center. And no doubt we'll see that in just a few hours' time. OK, Owen Alterman reporting for us live from Ben Gurion Airport there. We'll keep those images up so our viewers can continue to see this ceremony unfold. With us in studio, Anat Bernstein-Wright, the chairperson for Israel-India Chamber of Commerce, as well as our international affairs correspondent, Bianca Zanini. Anat, first to you, we know that the timing of this visit marks 25 years of diplomatic ties. We also know that they have progressed their relationship from not only diplomatic friends, but also strategic friends. Talk us through the strategy between Israel and India and how they're aligned.
First, in defense, okay? India needs our technology, and we need to sell our technology somewhere. So they have a big border with China, a big border with Pakistan. With Pakistan, they are in, conflict relations. With China, cold relations. And they need the protection that our technology can bring them. So from strategy, India needs our technology. From market, we need them. We are only 8 million. We are a neighborhood in Delhi, just to give you the proportion.
Right.
So their market is our future. The middle class of 400 million people is a great market for the Israeli technology, for the Israeli know-how, for the Israeli products. And this is the strategy. The needs of India and the needs of Israel are combined. And I think that this trip shows it.
Has the economic benefit, I suppose, of this relationship between India and Israel, who is it serving more?
It's a tough question to answer. I'll explain. The bilateral trade is about $4.2 billion. And we export more than we import, according to the statistics. But this is not true because services are not counted. Trade in IT or digital trade is not counted because it doesn't go through customs.
Right.
Israeli invest in India via offshore countries. Again, it's not counted in the bilateral trade. So it's very difficult for me to say who wins in this trade game.
It's an interesting partnership, though, Bianca, considering the market difference in population between and the size of both countries.
Absolutely. What we hear a lot, though, is, for instance, on the agricultural basis, is that we're seeing some changes in climate in India. We're seeing there's lack of water, and here we have in Israel the technology to deal with that, and that's why they want to get the ideas, the entrepreneurship that Israel is so famous for, and take it with them and scale it up, of course. enlarge, scale it up, of course.
And looking in terms of the needs of both countries, we know we talked about defence being an important factor in their relationship. Israel seems to be gaining a lot, at least recently, under Modi's leadership in terms of the multi-billion-dollar deals, cumulatively, that have been signed under his leadership.
True. To be honest, the defense trade started earlier, okay? I cannot ignore the years before Modi, but definitely in the last 3 years, I wouldn't say that they favor us in the trade or in their market, but still, we see more, so the proof is in the pudding. There is more probably due to Modi.
Okay. I asked this question to our political analyst, Kalev Ben-David, earlier about the fact that many analysts have said that this relationship is friendly on paper, but not much else. What do you say to that? Just as we watch, apparently Narendra Modi is about to walk down the stairs as we speak. We'll have our viewers keep their eye on that screen while you talk us through whether this is, in fact, a friendly relationship more than just on paper.
It's definitely not on paper. How can people say that? In a sense that business is happening. The flight of El Al and other airlines to India are full of business people and not just backpackers, and vice versa. We host a lot of business delegations coming to India, to Israel, I mean. Oh, how nice.
So we have our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, on the ground there. Owen, we're hearing that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is making his way down the stairs in a matter of minutes. What can you tell us from the ground there?
Well, Tracy, as you said, the door is opened and the Prime Minister expected to step down those stairs onto the red carpet and begin his 3-day visit here in Israel. Again, highly anticipated, historic, really a special moment for this country. And here he is. Prime Minister of India.
Now we're hearing the sounds of that military honour guard, which is a regular process when a minister or a head of government lands here in Israel. He'll make his way down the stairs there, be meted by that military honour guard, as well as by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
And the ambassador of India next to him.
Absolutely. And they'll make their way down, and then we'll no doubt hear some brief addresses from those leaders. We understand that after this landing ceremony, Modi will head to Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Museum. He has an extraordinarily packed schedule over the next 3 days. Anat, to you, were there any standout, things on his schedule to you? Anything that stood out to your mind that you wouldn't have expected from the Indian Prime Minister during his visit?
I wouldn't say that that there is something which is special that I wouldn't anticipate. When he came to New York, he took Madison Square Garden, and they called it for a day Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And they gathered the entire Indian community in this special hall. So same he is doing tomorrow in the convention center in Tel Aviv, where the entire Indian Jews and Indians that live in Israel will come and gather them for his talk to them. I hope that it will be in English and not in Hindi, but tomorrow we'll know.
We understand that he's also paying a visit to a desalination plant at the Israel Museum. What's the interest there for an Indian Prime Minister?
First, desalination is a must. India suffers from lack of water. I've been last week in Bombay, and it was pouring. It's monsoon season now, but they are not able to collect the water. They are not able to transfer the water. They are not able to treat the water. So the desalination is definitely a good technology that India needs, whether on the sea or from industry. And many Israeli companies like IDE, Tal, and so on are working in India to bring water to the people.
Mm-hmm. How much of a problem, I suppose, is terror for India in terms of, we know that Israel has, Benjamin Netanyahu rather, has drawn parallels between the threat that Hamas poses to Israel and the threats that are posed to India?
The threat to India from
There he is, sorry to cut you off on that, just as you started to speak. We're seeing Narendra Modi standing at the top of the stairs, hands together as is customary in Indian culture. Namaste, absolutely, making his way down the stairs. Our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, is on the ground. Owen, what can you tell us?
Well, as you said, the Prime Minister stepping off the plane, being greeted by Prime Minister Netanyahu and by other Israeli dignitaries. They are about to speak, as you mentioned. We'll hear the national anthems of the two countries from the Army Band, and then the two leaders will speak from the podium, give their introductory remarks to kick off this visit. Again, a very, very special visit, a historic one, and we'll no doubt hear from the two leaders about how they see this important relationship, which is each is marked really as a priority. Narendra Modi marking this as a priority for India and India's modernization. We just heard from our guest how important water technology is to India. You know, Tracy, a lot of focus here in Israel on the defense relationship with India, which is no doubt important. But for Indians, it's the water and agriculture that is no less important than defense. And for Benjamin Netanyahu, we've talked about how important this is. We're about to hear the national anthems.
Just heard the two national anthems, both of India and Israel, as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in Israel, the first Indian head of government to land in Israel. Now, of course, this visit comes as the two countries mark 25 years of diplomatic relations this year. Now, senior international affairs correspondent Owen Alterman is there on the ground at Ben Gurion Airport for us. Owen, as Modi landed, we saw his iconic bear hug, him and Benjamin Netanyahu embracing.
As the two national anthems were played, we now hear from the Army Band as well, as the leaders make their way down the red carpet to the podium, where we expect to hear from each of them. Again, each of these leaders putting a premium and a priority on this bilateral relationship. Each of them sees it as very, very important to his country. From the Israeli perspective, there's no question that this is a big moment for Prime Minister Netanyahu, who likes to talk about Israel's place in the world, likes to talk about how Israel is not isolated in the world. And what better proof of that than the pictures that we are seeing in front of our eyes? The Prime Minister of India, one of the world's largest economies, one of the world's largest countries, coming here to honor the state of Israel with the visit. And of course, very, very important visit for India as well. At least that's the way Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi sees it. Tracy.
Now, Owen, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but what we saw from the visuals coming through our screen here is the iconic bear hug that Narendra Modi is now famous for, him and Benjamin Netanyahu embracing. We remember Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu had a very fond handshake when he arrived. How can we compare the relationship here, or the meaning of this visit, and how different it is, or how important it is compared to the visit perhaps of the United States President?
Well, yes, he's famous for that bear hug. We saw him give it to Donald Trump. We saw him give it to Emmanuel Macron. Now Benjamin Netanyahu joins the list. But again, Narendra Modi in India seeing Israel as an important partner, and as Israel's head of government is an important partner and part of that relationship. And again, they're walking down and they will make their way to the podium and speak. Again, a very, very important moment for these two countries and a packed 3-day visit. But Tracy, more than any particular stop on that visit or any particular concrete achievement, it is the symbolism that matters here, and the fact that this visit is happening that is so very important.
Certainly. I just want to introduce another guest we have in studio with us as we wait for the leaders to address the media and to address the public. Padmaja Ruparel, the co-founder of IAN, Israel's largest angel network, still with us in studio. Anat Bernstein-Reich, chairperson for Israel-India Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being with us, Padmaja.
Thank you.
Talk us through the relationship here, the economic relationship between Israel and India. I asked Anat before, who wins in this relationship, or is it an equal share?
So I think, here is a country which is two countries which are absolutely complementary. I think Israel is one of the most innovative countries. You've created something so unique in the middle of all your neighbors. You've created some of the most interesting talent, and you've really shown the world what it can happen. On the other hand, we have India, which is not only the world's largest democracy, but it is the fastest growing economy. We have a rapidly growing middle class. We have the fastest growing startup ecosystem in the world, and together...
Certainly. I'm just going to cut you off there because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is about to begin his address.
ברוך הבא לישראל, ראש ממשלת הודו, ידידי נרנדרה מודי. My friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi, welcome to Israel. आपका स्वागत है, मेरे दोस्त. Prime Minister, we've been waiting for you a long time. We've been waiting almost 70 years, in fact, because yours is truly a historic visit. It's the first time an Indian Prime Minister is visiting Israel. We receive you with open arms. We love India. We admire your culture. We admire your history, your democracy, your commitment to progress. We view you as kindred spirits in our common quest to provide a better future for our peoples and for our world. Prime Minister, when I first met you at the United Nations 3 years ago, we agreed to break down the remaining walls between India and Israel. We shook each other's hands, and we agreed to forge a historic partnership for progress. We then met again in Paris, and since then we've spoken many times on the phone. But I remember, my friend, what you said in that first meeting. You said that when it comes to India-Israel's relations, the sky is the limit. But actually, my friend, the sky isn't the limit, because today, even our space programs are working together to achieve even greater heights. The ties between our talented, innovative peoples is natural. It's so natural that we could ask, what took so long for them to blossom? Well, it took a meeting of minds and hearts. It took a commitment of our governments. We have that today. On this visit, your Make in India initiative meets my Make with India policy. We're setting up a $40 million innovation fund as the seed for even greater cooperation on technology between us. Our partnership extends to water, agriculture, security, energy, many, many other fields. I believe the formula for success is simple. It's I square, T square. That equals Indian talent times Israeli technology. It equals Israel-India's ties for tomorrow. I square, T square. Now, I'm confident. This is the degree of mathematics I remember from my student days. But I'm confident of the real mathematics of life. I'm confident of the success of our partnership for many reasons. First is the talent of our peoples. It's been said, Prime Minister, that in Silicon Valley in California, the two most common languages overheard are Hindi and Hebrew. Occasionally, one hears some native English too. Second, I believe in the success of our partnership because of the great sympathy between our peoples, the natural camaraderie between Indians and Israelis. The Jews of India and the 100,000 Israelis of Indian descent are a wonderful human bridge between our two nations, our two peoples. Third, I'm confident of our success because of leadership. Prime Minister Modi, you're a great leader of India and a great world leader. Your visit to Israel is a testament to that. Our two peoples have deeply held values rooted in ancient cultures, yet we both seek to realize the promise of a better future. I know, and this visit marks that very clearly, I know that we can do even more, even better together. Welcome to Israel, my friend, Prime Minister Modi. Shukran. Thank you.
גבירותיי ורבותיי, יש לנו הכבוד לשמוע את דבר אורחנו המכובד, ראש ממשלת הודו, הוד מעלתו, נרנדרה מודי. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
Excellency Prime Minister Netanyahu, ladies and gentlemen, Shalom, Leklam, Anisemia Mayod, Lehiat Po. It is my singular honor to be the first ever Prime Minister of India to undertake this groundbreaking visit to Israel. I want to thank my friend, Prime Minister Netanyahu, for the invitation and for receiving me with so much warmth. My visit celebrates the strength of centuries-old links between our societies. Based on these bonds of our partnership, has maintained a strong and sustained upswing since the establishment of full relationship, diplomatic relations 25 years ago. Friends, the people of Israel have built a nation on democratic principles. They have nurtured it with hard work, greed, and the spirit of innovation. You have marched on regardless of adversity and converted challenges into opportunity. India applauds your achievements. Today is July 4. Exactly 41 years since Operation Entebbe, the day when your Prime Minister and my friend Bibi lost his elder brother Yoni while saving the lives of so many Israel hostages. Your heroes are an inspiration for the younger generations. Friends, India is a very old civilization, but a young nation. 800 million people in India are below 35 years of age group. The talented and skilled youth of India are also its driving force. They propel my vision to transform India, its industry, its economy, its way of doing business, and its interface with the world. Friends, in our path of sustained high growth and all-round development, India counts Israel amongst its important partners. The need to rely on science, technology, innovation, and higher technical education to overcome our developmental challenges to common to both of us. The domains also bring together the creative energy and ideas of the highly skilled youth and entrepreneurs of the two countries. Alongside building a partnership for shared economic prosperity, we are also cooperating to secure our societies against common threats such as terrorism. A progressive partnership in all these areas would shape the scope of my conversation with Prime Minister, my friend Netanyahu. I'm also keen to interact with the Indian diaspora in Israel, including a large number of Jews of Indian origin who have enriched both our societies. Excellency and friends, my visit marks a path-breaking journey of engagement, a journey that we are excited to undertake together for the good of our people and societies. As we march together, a strong and resilient partnership with Israel will be my intent and focus. I thank you once again for this tremendous welcome. Thank you very much.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi making his first address as the first Indian Prime Minister to land in Israel. Before that, we heard Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in his address mentioning a $40 million innovation fund. With me in studio, Padmaja Ruparel, the co-founder of IAN, and Anat Bernstein-Reich, chairperson for Israel-India Chamber of Commerce. As we're seeing these two leaders walk away, this partnership that they were stressing so much in their speeches. We know these enormous economic partnerships that have been outlined, but I understand from what you're telling me, Padmaja, that these significant partnerships underpin broader economic partnership that are happening on the sidelines. Briefly talk us through what's happening there.
Yeah, sure. I think what we would like to say is today we launch the IAN chapter in Israel. So what we are talking about is really bringing the world's largest angel investor group with 450 angels, plus a 70 million IAN fund, which is looking at investing in innovative young startups in your country. And I think this is a first. This is the first time that it's happened in Israel. While we have launched in London and invested in UK companies, apart from India and 6 other countries, I think for Israel this is a first, number one. Number two, I think what we are looking already, I mean, the day was spent meeting entrepreneurs and listening to entrepreneurs. We've kicked off right off the ground. And that is something which says that we are tangibly, operationally committed to make this happen.
Right.
And I think that's a big step in our relationship.
Sure, a very clear economic partnership there. We go now to our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, who's on the ground there at the airport, listening to those addresses. Owen, we're talking in the studio about the economic relationship here, but both leaders pointed to both the political and diplomatic relationship between the two countries. Owen, can you hear us there?
It's coming in and out.
Owen, all right, I'm being told by my producer in my ear that we're having a bit of trouble contacting our international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, on the ground there. Back in studio, Anat Bernstein-Reich, chairman for Israel-India Chamber of Commerce. How significant then is this partnership that we heard them referring to over and over again in terms of the economic interests in the countries compared with other nations?
Well, I'm an India expert, so I can talk to you about India. But definitely there is a partnership, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's water, whether it's medical device and health, whether it's defense and intelligence, and it's growing. We started 25 years ago with 200 million in bilateral trade, and look at us today. The official numbers is 4.2 billion, but it's much more, and according to me, it's even 6. And it will triple when we will sign a free trade agreement that is under negotiation at the moment.
Right. Anat Bernstein-Reich and Padmaja Rupert, thank you so much for your analysis here in studio with us. Just to close us out, we go once again to our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, who's there at the airport. Owen, what can you tell us?
Well, Tracy, we just heard the speeches from the two leaders. The bands are playing their closing songs. The two leaders will go from here to a flower farm where Prime Minister Netanyahu and Agriculture Minister Uri Ariel will introduce Prime Minister Modi to Israel's agricultural technology. We spoke before about how important that is to India. As for the speeches themselves, I heard from each of the two leaders why this relationship is so important to each of them. What I found so interesting about Prime Minister Modi is he really hit on how important he sees this relationship with Israel for India's modernization. India is one of the world's fastest growing economies, but still has hundreds of millions of people in poverty and a real need to leapfrog economically, to get agricultural water and high technology, and sees Israel as a real partner for doing that, and sees his visit as a real opportunity to move that forward. Also heard from him about the ties with the Indian diaspora as he sees it here in Israel. Indian Jews and Indian expatriates hosting a festive event in honor of Prime Minister Modi tomorrow night in Tel Aviv. Tracy, I-24 News will be there.
Okay, Owen Alterman, thank you for that reporting live from Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. That brings us to the end of this special coverage, but of course we will be following every footstep of Narendra Modi throughout his 3-day visit here in Israel. In fact, we'll be back with another special in about 1.5 hours' time. One of the first stops of Modi is to Israel's Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem. We'll leave you with these live pictures from Ben Gurion Airport as we close out this broadcast. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again very soon.